Hi there, this is Solitary Ronin from Solitary Ronin Films, and welcome to the alphabet of my favourite films, and today's letter is the letter J. A little bit of housekeeping just to let you know that the joint channel that I'm doing with Nazarin Productions, Ronin Nazarin Talks, we just put up the 4th episode on Shizlovsky's Decalogue. You can go check that out and leave comments, subscribe and likes if that is up your alley. And we're also doing one for Halloween that will be coming out quite soon as well. So back to the letter J. This letter doesn't have a lot of films. Again, please leave me your list in the comments below, because I do really enjoy reading them, because no doubt there's films I haven't seen, there's films I've completely forgotten about, and it is always fascinating and very enjoyable to read your comments. So what I was just going to do is talk about one of the films a bit in length, and then just go through the other letter J films. The film I'm going to talk about a little bit is Jaws from 1975. Now, I'm not the biggest Steven Spielberg fan. I think this is his last great film. For me, he just doesn't do very interesting things with the camera anymore. And this is one of the greatest films of moments. It's just classic moment after classic moment. It's kind of interesting if the mechanical shark called Bruce had actually worked, how different the film would be. And I'm a firm believer that great art comes through suffering. So the fact that the mechanical shark didn't work, the fact they shot it on the ocean rather than on a tank in a studio, the fact that Robert Shaw and Richard Dreyfuss just didn't get on for most of the shoot, I think that makes it just a much better film. Obviously, if he was making it now, it would be a CGI shark, and it would be nowhere near as good. It's one of those films that I wish I'd seen when it came out in the cinema in 1975. Yes, you could argue this is what started the summer blockbuster phenomenon, which is perhaps not the greatest thing in cinema history. But for me, there's just no denying it's just about perfect. The things that they got rid of from the book are absolutely fine. There's a whole subtext with Richard Dreyfuss having an affair with Chief Brody's wife. But again, because Spielberg's one of those directors that just doesn't really know how to deal with women, or women are always kind of toy boys. Women are always tomboys. Women are always tomboys, not toy boys. That's a completely different thing. That kind of side story was cut out of the film, and it just makes it a leaner, meaner film. Obviously, it spawned 3 sequels. It spawned countless imitators, and we're still essentially seeing its influence 40 years later. I'm just going to list some of the classic moments. Again, we'll all have our own classic moments from Jaws. But we have Bad Hat Harry. We have the vandalised sign, where Richard Dreyfuss says the mayor's not going to do anything until it swims up and bites him in the ass. We have the USS Indianapolis speech, of course. We have the reverse zoom dolly. We have the shooting stars. We have that wonderful shot of the machete in the side of the boat and the sun gleaming on the water next to it. It's a beautiful shot. We also have the We Need a Bigger Boat. Robert Shaw running his fingernails down the blackboard. We have the This Was No Boating Accident. You have the Midnight Autopsy, where Roy Scheider's like, I can do anything, I'm the sheriff. We have the wonderful scene with Lorraine Gary saying it's okay because the kids are playing in the boat, and then she looks at the book and there's a picture of a shark going through the boat and she's like, get out of the boat. There's the midnight expedition with the two guys with a huge lump of meat. There's the wonderful scene with one of Brody's sons mimicking everything he does at the dinner table, which again has been copied so many times. We have the autopsy on the arm that's found in the beach from the swimmer who was skinny dipping at the opening scene. We have also the head popping out. We have John Williams' score. We have the slap from the little boy's mother on Brody on the pier, which is almost as good as the slap at the start of Once Upon a Time in the West, but not quite. We have the comparing scars scene, which apparently was roughly when Robert Shaw and Richard Dreyfuss started kind of bonding a bit. We have the Show Me the Way to Go Home. We have Farewell and Adieu, You Fair Spanish Maidens, when Richard Dreyfuss is explaining the cage to Robert Shaw at the start when they're loading up the boat. Again, I've probably missed out classic moments, but there's very few films that are just built on classic scene after classic scene after classic scene, classic moment after classic moment. You also have Murray Hamilton as the quintessential sleazy mayor who kind of doesn't want to stop the 4th of July, because that's obviously where the town survives on the money. It's just such a great film. It's Spielberg actually using the camera, Spielberg actually using and showing great compositions. It's Jaws. Next on the list is Goreku from Japan from 1960. One of the first Japanese horror films. This is a odd little film about a student who gets involved in a car accident and ends up going to hell, literally and figuratively. It's just absolutely beautiful. It's very similar to Dante's Inferno as far as the kind of imagery, the use of sets. There's almost a kind of twisted Powell and Pressburger, that kind of artificiality, but also just quite disturbing, and also quite beautiful at the same time. It's a really interesting little film and one of the earliest Japanese horror films. Next on the list is something slightly different. It's Johnny Guitar, Nicholas Ray's barking western. in glorious, it might not be Technicolor, but it was one of those, a Mazo colour or something, starring Joan Crawford in a startling performance, and Sterling Hayden as the title Johnny Guitar, and Mercedes McCambridge as Joan Crawford's nemesis. It's a western that the French new wave of Godard and Truffaut absolutely loved. When it came out, it kind of confused a lot of people, both in the audience and in American critics, but it was a kind of huge smash in Europe. It's a really weird, strange film, but absolutely glorious, and it's well worth checking out if you haven't seen it before. Next on the list is Joint Security Area by Kim Ji-woon, which I did a random review of fairly recently, even though it could have been 6 months. Time flies when you're having fun, apparently. Starring Kang Ho-jong and Byung-hun Lee, set on the North-South Korea border, about an attack that happens, and kind of in flashback we find out the true story of what actually went on. It's just so good, and if you haven't seen it before, I would highly recommend it because it's just absolutely wonderful. Kim Ji-woon, who obviously did Bittersweet Life, which is fantastic, and I Saw the Devil, both of which have appeared in my alphabet of favourite films under different letters. But Joint Security Area is just beautifully made, beautifully acted, and is just stunning. And the kind of, when everything clicks into place as far as the flashbacks and we finally kind of find out what happened, it's just so wonderful. Next on the list is another strange one. It's Georges Franjoul's Judex. This is an odd film. I'm not going to go into the plot, but if you're familiar with Franjoul's work, and Eyes Without a Face, Les Yeux Sans Visage, this is another kind of hypnotic, powerful, odd, off-kilter, poetic, beautiful film that you really ought to try and track down. Again, this also features Shadow Man or Nuit Rouge, which is also kind of strange and creepy. But Judex is an experience. And finally, it's The Jungle Book. This is my favourite Disney. This is a film that I have loved since I was a child. I really like tigers. I love tigers. And Shere Khan, to me, is just like one of the greatest villains of all time. I am always disappointed that Shere Khan doesn't tear Mowgli to bits and disembowel him and eat him. But hopefully there's maybe a director's cut one day of Shere Khan disemboweling Mowgli. It's got great music. It's got Baloo the Bear. It's personally maybe my fantasy, of growing up with wild animals, having a Black Panther, not in the revolutionary sense, and a bear who are your best friends. To me, it doesn't really ring true at the end where he goes back to the man village. I mean, who would give up spending afternoons with Black Panthers and wolves and bears? I mean, come on, rather than going to a man village. That's the thing that doesn't ring true to me. And also Shere Khan not knocking the little annoying kids block off. But apart from that, it's my favourite Disney of all time. I know it perhaps doesn't rank that highly in Disney. It's the last one that Walt Disney kind of oversaw, I believe, from 1967. But I've always loved it, and it's fantastic as far as I'm concerned. So thanks very much for watching this very short letter J. Again, please do leave in the comments below your suggestions, your favourite films beginning with the letter J, and hopefully we'll see you again for the letter K. This is Solitude Ruin saying thanks very much for watching, and farewell.